lovely to meet in person all the people that I've been hugging over the internet. So it's so great. And the story I want to tell you about is when I was growing up, I was one of those children that was considered annoying. I loved learning. I was the one in class going, oh, pick me, I know the answer. And I was the one that did very well academically because I was so curious, and I'm so glad that curiosity doesn't kill the cat because I'm still here. And you'd think from that, I was able to do well at school, I had a lot of friends, I ended up captain of the school, that I would be a person that had a very good sense of self or good self-esteem. But that wasn't true. And as a child, I didn't even know I didn't have it. It was only many years later that I realised that. And where it came from, my understanding now as I look back on my life, is that when I was growing up, my dad was of that era where you never said good things about your kids. In actual fact, you put down everything because, you know, you don't want them to get too big for their boots, and you don't want them to get too smarty pants, you know, so that they won't achieve. But I didn't know that. I only found that out a long lot later. And I remember one night that this was a kind of really defining night. And my dad would never come to any of my awards nights or anything like that. And on my graduation, he was actually pig shooting, so he wasn't there for that either. But I remember on this one awards night, wild pig shooting, in outback Australia, you know, that's where I live. Anyway, so that's what he was doing. And I remember this one night, I was 16 and I'd received 4 awards, and he came. It was like a miracle, like for the first time there's my dad. So I got my 4 awards and I was so proud, and I was bringing them down and was sitting in the car on the way home, and I said, Dad, are you proud of me? Well, basically what he said, I've kind of got an open wound there as well. Basically what he said in his thick accent, my father had a beautiful Serbian accent, he said, darling, when I was at school, I used to have to bring a wheelbarrow to carry all my awards. Now, he thought that was very funny, but I was heartbroken, and I'm sitting there like, are you kidding me? What have I got to do to get your love, to get your respect? And of course, my mother reprimanded him all the way home, going, don't listen to him, he really does love you. This is ridiculous. Nix, what's the matter with you? Why are you doing this? You know, and none of that mattered either. And what I found was, as I got older and I left home and I didn't have my dad's voice there, I actually had his voice within me. And so no matter what I did in life, no matter what I achieved, I could certainly put some words in there like, oh, I was lucky, oh, I had a good this, or I had a good that, or this was really great. And I never actually gave myself any credit for anything that I'd done. And really, I was just repeating that voice. So when I became a mother, I'm like, I'm not doing this to my kid, no way. So no matter what Cameron would do, I'd be like, that's so good, honey, that's so fantastic. You know, he'd move an arm and I'd go, look at that, he's moved an arm. He's a genius child. This is amazing. And so this went on for a few years. And one day, he picks up one of his pictures and he says to me, Mummy, do you love this? Because that's what I used to say to him all the time. I love that. And I realised in that moment, something wasn't right. So, as the researcher that I am, I went on the internet, went into the bookshops, and I tried to find out all about that whole idea of internal validation versus external validation, self-esteem versus external appraisal. And that's where the beginning of this book began, where I started to say, well, I'm a mum and I've got a lot of knowledge about accounting. That's what I do. I'm an accounting professor at University of Sydney, but he's not going to need that for a while. Right now, I need a lot of help, and it's what Marlene's been talking about, looking out there for all of you experts that have knowledge about, you know, the psychologists, the neuroscientists, all those people out there that are doing the things that I needed to know about. So I interviewed them all, and one of the big areas for me was self-esteem. I wanted to understand that because I didn't have it, and now I was obviously not supporting my child's self-esteem. And what I found out was what self-esteem is. I actually didn't even know what it was. And one of the authors in the book is Michael Hall, and he talks about the difference between self-confidence and self-esteem, and it changed my world. And self-confidence is all about the doing, what you do in the world. And we don't want our kids to be all confident. We don't. We want them to have levels of low confidence and levels of high confidence. Why? Because confidence relates to how well you can do something in the world. So if you're very good at it, you should have a high level of confidence in it. If you've just done it for the first time, you want to have low self-confidence about it. For example, if my son felt that he was very confident on the first time he rode his bike, he might go to the top of a hill and come down and do some damage to his little body, which of course I would have to then fix. So we want him to have low self-confidence and to start on a little hill. So in relationship to self-confidence, we want the whole area to be from low to high. Whereas a lot of people say we want confident kids. Well, we only want them confident in the areas they're good at, and not so confident in the areas they're not, so they're open to learning and making sure that they're safe. On the other hand, self-esteem has nothing to do with doing. It's all about the being. And it's exactly what Tara said. It's that unique brilliance. And so self-esteem, when I realised that, I didn't have to do anything in the world. I didn't have to be anything in the world. I could just be me. And that made all the difference in the world to me as a person, because I didn't have to keep trying to prove anything to anyone. So how did I support that in my child? How did I help him esteem himself and know about his unique brilliance and be internally referenced, not externally referenced? So from now on, and from that time on, when he used to say, "Mummy, do you love this?" I would say, "Cameron, do you love this?" And he'd go, "I love this." And that's called self-esteem. He was esteeming, making a judgment about his self. And then I'd say, "Did you like doing it?" "I liked doing it." "Do you want to do it again?" "I want to do it again." So this time he's made 3 judgments about his own work, his own being, his own feelings, his own doings. And then I say, "Do you still want to know what Mummy thinks about it?" Sometimes he goes, "No." I go, "Okay." And sometimes he says yes. And I just allow for that. I just allow him to do that. So for me, it's about helping him understand what self-esteem means, not looking outside himself, but also having the opportunity to learn from others, being open to learn from others, but not taking self-esteem from outside. So what I want to do now is I just want to rewrite that night that I told you about, when I was sitting in the back of the car with my dad. And when I said to him, "Are you proud?" He said in his thick accent, "Darling, it doesn't matter if I'm proud. What matters if you are proud." So I just want to end on that note, on that whole idea of unique brilliance. Thank you, everyone.